Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Well, beautiful morning today in the Holy Land. And soon the whole world will be a holy land. The whole world will reveal the Creator and the purpose of the Creator in the whole world. Meanwhile, let's give charity. Here we will give charity. The Jewish people will be redeemed and awakened with charity. Here we go. Charity. Ready? Charity. The Jews are receiving all sorts of wake-up calls. There we go. Charity will bring the redemption. Charity protects from death. Charity. Let us praise the creator of the universe, who's doing the biggest charity of all. He's creating us. He's giving us everything. Everything. Giving us our life and our power to see and to speak and to think and to make mistakes. Free choice is giving us. Here we go. So let's praise the creator. Beginning of Psalm 118 and the beginning of Psalm 136. And praise the Creator, praise God because He's good. Because the Olam Chazdo, forever is His kindness, or to the world is His kindness. The world is His. Okay, ready? Let's go. So yesterday we asked a question that what did Moses mean when he said to God, send somebody else? You got to send somebody else. God tried to convince Moses 7 days, it says, at the burning bush, and finally he succeeded to go and to redeem the Jewish people. And one of the arguments that Moses, which is a pretty good argument, he said to God, listen, God, I mean, I can't speak properly. I have a big speech impediment. And so let's say I'm not afraid to go into Paro, which that's asking a lot, but okay, so I'm not afraid. But even if I go in, he's not going to understand me. So God says back to Moses, who gave a mouth to people? Who created the mouth? I created the mouth. I can do whatever I want to. And the whole thing is ridiculous. What are you saying, Moses? I'm telling you to take the Jews. I mean, there was like 15 million Jews at that time in Egypt. And I'm telling you to take them all out in one day. You don't think I can really fix your speech impediment? I'm going to do such a massive, incredible thing that's never been done in the history of the world, to speak, and you don't think I can do the same thing to you? I mean, that miracle happens to everybody. Everyone is born, they can't speak. They can't speak. And after a certain amount of time, they learn to speak. So everyone is born with speech difficulties, impediments, impossibilities. Every single human being in the world is born unable to speak. And in time they speak. Who created mouths to people? It's me. So what are you worried about, Moses? Okay, so this is the Rebbe. What exactly was Moses' question? I mean, Moses really thought that God couldn't heal his mouth? Is that really what he said? You have to even write this in the Bible? It's a shameful thing. Any human being knows that God can do, I mean, that's a basic miracle. Basic miracle, which happens. I mean, we don't appreciate that it's a miracle. But the fact is that human beings can speak. It's a big, big miracle. Huh? Amazing. I once read somewhere that is one of the proofs against evolution. Right? One of the stumbling blocks, whatever one goes, one of the questions that evolution cannot surmount, namely, how is it that people can speak intelligently? It can't be that evolved from monkeys, right? It just evolved. And people say things, it can't be that it depends on survival, because people talk about things that have absolutely nothing to do with survival. And sometimes there's people that can speak the best, right? The most intelligent, they're the ones that don't survive. So how can it possibly? That's one of the proofs anyway. But the fact of the matter is, it's one of the proofs. I mean, the whole thing of evolution has absolutely no basis in science whatsoever. Never been observed any proof for evolution ever in the history of the world. It's just all pure conjecture. But that's a different story. Let's talk about it. The fact of the matter is that we see God does this miracle all the time. Okay, so what was Moses saying? So the Rebbe explained. This is what we learned yesterday, if you remember. So the Rebbe explained, no, what was Moses saying? He was saying like this. that there's really two answers, and we'll get to the second answer soon. Let's see the second answer. Where's this? Here. Second answer. Let's make this bigger. 1 second. Why should I squint? Why squint? Here. There we go. Okay, so the Rebbe explains, remember, that was pretty interesting. The Rebbe said that there's a book which is called Sefer HaTamuna. And this is a Kabbalah book. They say it's written by, I looked it up yesterday, it's written by what is it? Nehemiah ben Hakana, is it? And Rebbe Yishmael Cohen Gadol. That's what they say it's written. In any case, in this book of Kabbalah, it says that this world that we're in now is just a second, that was preceded by a previous world, just like ours, but it had 6,000 years. There were 6,000 years, and then God destroyed that, and there's going to be another 6,000 years. And the Arizal said that's right, but it wasn't a world like ours. It wasn't a world where there was time and place. It's talking about a level of godliness, an order of godliness, of the 10 sfirot of godliness, which is called Tohu. That's what it's talking about. And the Tohu was a stage in creation that preceded the stage of creation, which begins with Atzilut, which begins when God created the spiritualness. Because this level is sort of like not even really spiritual. It's not a world. I don't understand this, but nevertheless the way it is. It's something like an internal, the aspect of God before he actually started creating this physical world. This physical world began with what's called the world of Atzilut. That's the plan of this physical world. It's the highest of the spiritual levels. But before it was a level which was called Tohu. And Tohu was pure godliness, more pure than even Atzilut. That's what it says. But it was so pure that it couldn't even be arranged in any way. It was just pure godliness in God's 10 aspects, which are called his sfirot. Pure. And then it came into Atzilut. That's called Tikkun. Then everything became weakened. And it was able to be harmony. So there could be, and that's where the whole world came from. But Moses came from this aspect of Tohu, which was so powerful and so that it couldn't be arranged in any way. It couldn't be arranged in any sort of a way. And that's what Moses was saying. Moses was saying, how can I speak? How can I speak? Okay, there's two ways that we'll see. Okay, one was, how can I speak? I'm too high. I can't limit myself in order to get into actual words. That's one. Moses was too high in order to be able to speak. But then there's another one the Rebbe brings. Actually, he brings that before. We didn't get to that yesterday. He brings it before, and he said, no, Moses was astounded by the fact that as high as he was in the world of Tohu, he was still part of the creation. And in this physical world, which is called Tikkun, there's Tohu and Tikkun. This physical world, as that he couldn't, in this physical world, you can actually connect to the essence of God by doing the commandments, physical commandments, in this physical world. And therefore, Moses was astounded. He was astounded. He couldn't speak. How can it be that in this physical world, you can actually do physical commandments in this world? I'm too, how do you say, spiritual for that. This is not a level. I'm in spiritual levels, the highest level. And this world, you can actually connect with the essence of God, the physical world. As that knocked him out. He couldn't stand. Let's see, where do we get that over here? We got that over here. One second. We got Shemitahs. Okay. Moshe and Chanoch, we said, right, okay. All right, let's see. Did we do this yesterday? I don't remember what we did. Okay, wait, let's go to the next page. Where is that found? Where is that found? What I just said? Oh, I remember. I skipped over here. Here we go. Let's go. That's right. Okay, so we said that Moses came from this, what was called the first Shemitah, which we said is not a physical world like ours. It's 6,000 spiritual essence years. That's the world of Tohu. We said, he said, okay. It says, but Moses was not able to understand how in this physical world, here, this is what we got up to, how in this physical world you can reach the essence of God. That knocked Moses out. He couldn't speak. Okay, and therefore Moses said, Shalach b'yad teshalach, send somebody else, someone who comes from the world of Tikkun, from this physical world. Moses said, I come from too high of a place. I can't possibly fathom how there can be something higher than spiritual. How it can be, because in how, what is higher than the spiritual? The source of the physical world. That's what it says. Niyotz techilatam b'sofam. And it says, there you go. Niyotz sofam b'techilato. That the end, the lowest level, is really in the highest. Okay, now you can think about this for a second, and the Rebbe wants us to think about for a second. This is really a very powerful thing, because what does Judaism say? Judaism says something, and I know I've repeated this 1,000 times, but I have to repeat it 1,000 more times, maybe just to convince myself. But in this physical world, God gave the Torah. God gave there's all these other religions and spiritual methods and whatever it is. None of them make a claim like this. That God, the creator of the universe, actually told physical people in this physical world what he wants from the world, why he's creating everything, what we have to do. Right? In the 5 books of Moses, it doesn't mention heaven or hell, because this is infinitely higher. This is talking about what the creator, the creator of heaven and hell and all the levels of heaven, what he wants from this physical world. So that's what it says, that Tohu, the aspect of Tohu, is infinitely higher than Tikkun. But what can be done in this physical world when you do a commandment is higher than both of them. That was the claim of Moses, that he had to bring himself very down, very low, to be humble for all men. Why? Because he saw that with his greatness and his insane genius and spirituality, it was only getting in his way. He was trying to understand how it could possibly be that doing a commandment in this world touches the essence of God, and you can't understand it. So therefore, that knocked him out. He was humble. Says the Rebbe, here's another answer, and this is the first answer that I gave. But Emmett, really, Himala Etzalenu, this is a very high thing by us. Mashahaya kaved peh, that Moses couldn't speak. Shari sibat, this is a printing thing. Sibazu, this umitzad riboy ha'oros, because Moses was so high. Lakach, therefore, lo yachol hakli lachil, that Moses was not able to put this into vessels, which is not the case in Tikkun, who miut orot v'riboy kelim. Says the whole thing of Moses was light of God, awareness of God, God consciousness, God attachment, God unification. He says that's the whole thing of Moses, was the thing of the lights, awareness, inspiration, motion, which is not the case by us. In this physical world, which is called Tikkun, the main thing by us is limitation, harmony, not doing what you want. Not doing what you want. It's almost like, I don't know if it's a good example of them, but giving the example. Let's say a person who is a trumpet player. He plays trumpet. Nobody can keep up with the guy. He just, when he starts playing, or like the orchestra, when it's warming up, so everybody just goes for themselves. He plays the whole entire range of the oboe and the bassoon and the the brass and the woodwinds and everything, and they're just going from the top of the eye and playing as fast as they can. Right? That's playing the instrument. Right? That's something like tohu. Tohu is like the ultimate of what you can be, and that's it. That's Moses was like the ultimate human being, the ultimate person, the ultimate in spirituality. But let's take the orchestra again. But when the orchestra starts playing, then all of a sudden you get beauty. All of a sudden you get harmony. But harmony demands that no one does what they want. You have to devote yourself to the harmony, to the something bigger than you. So he says that's the thing of Moses was like this thing of tohu, pure godliness, holiness, but harmony wasn't so important by Moses. He didn't have the ability. He was too high. He couldn't bring it down to speech. But in this world, when we do the commandments, as we're limiting ourselves, is we can bring down the essence of what God is, because that's what God wanted when he created the world. He created the world in a very limited, harmonious place. And so therefore, in this physical world, we have the ability to do and to appreciate the commandments, because the commandments don't demand understanding. And it's nice to put understanding into them and to understand. It's a commandment to understand as much as possible as Judaism. In fact, that's the motto of Judaism. Shema Yisrael means understand. Jews, God, understand. But the doing of the commandments is above understanding, and that the Jewish people could internalize. So therefore, in fact, there is a big advantage in tikkun because we're able to put things in an orderly way. Okay, so what did God answer back to Moses? What did he say back to Moses? And so Moses said, listen, God, you made me, I'm from the world of Tohu. I can't speak, I'm too high. I can't get, and not only that, I look at the Jewish people, when they do the commandments, it draws down your essence. So that's not for me. I can't limit myself like that. Pick somebody else. What does God say back to him? Mi sampeh, who made the mouth? Didn't I make the mouth? I made it. Hashem, Yud-Keh Vav-Keh, the essence name of God. Okay, so he says, this is what God answers to Moses. And you have to remember what this conversation is over here. This is God speaking to Moses. Right? You can imagine a television or a podcast. Today we're going to interview God. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. We're gonna, right? Okay, God, I have a few questions to ask you. Where is God sitting? What does that mean? How does it make any sense? And here's Moses. The Torah tells us that Moses is talking to God. Where is God? God is in the burning bush. And God's creating everything. He's creating all these spiritual levels. God is the whole world is absolutely nothing to God. And here they're having a conversation. So God says to Moses, who made a mouth to people? Ki emes, the truth is, Atomer, you say that you, Moses, can't speak. Why? Because you haven't got the vessels. You can't limit yourself. You haven't got the vessels like those and which are found in the world of tikkun. That in the end, the lowest, that's really my essence desire is found low. And Moses, your whole thing is being high. You're high up. And you're trying to say that because of your soul, that you come from this level of tohu, therefore you can't speak. That what you conceive of, what you're aware of, cannot be put into words. Therefore, you're telling me that you don't want to go into Paro because you can't speak to him. You're too high. But misam pela adam. Who is it that put a mouth to the man? Lo adam. To the man. Not just to man in general. Who is the man? Who is the man? Who is the man? The man that's known. Which man is this? Comments with a comment. Oh, it's like saying li ha-adam. It's Hebrew grammar. This hints at ha-adam yadua. This is talking about what's called the man that's known. This is like the man that Isaiah and Ezekiel saw sitting on the throne when they had the visions of God. What type of man is this? Hainu b'chinas adam de atzilut, the man of atzilut. She'ala kiseh, which is sitting on the throne. Isaiah saw, and Ezekiel, they had visions of God sitting on a throne, sitting on a chariot, sitting on a throne. Okay, but that's sort of like, isn't that sort of blasphemous? I mean, God has an image. That's the opposite of Judaism, right? But in the first, right in the beginning of creation, in the beginning of the Bible, it says that God created man in his image, right? The sixth day of creation, God created man in his image. True, it says that in our image, it says, but afterwards it says God created man in his image. So man has an image. So that's what we're talking about, these books of Kabbalah. What exactly is this image of God that doesn't disturb God's oneness? What is it? How can be an image of God? When we say that God is one, we mean there's nothing outside of God. God creates everything. He creates everything. So if God creates everything, it means that he's not limited. The world is image. The world is like sort of this. How do you say? Mirage. You know, it's like a specter of nothingness, right? That's where all these Eastern religions come from. The world means nothing. Now they have the quantum theory. There's really nothing, right? It's just the world is made of atoms, and atoms are made of nothing, and there's nothing, but nothing must be something. It's just, you know, electrons, but the electrons are nothing, and the forces are nothing. So what is going on? What really is reality? Says the Rebbe, the reality is that God is creating everything. That's the reality. The fact is, everything really does not exist, but God is bringing it into existence constantly. It's made really of nothing. But the fact that the world is, yes, in an order, and that God is, yes, creating it. So there's all these spiritual levels which hint at it. That's also called Jacob's ladder, appreciating God from the lower to the higher. The highest level of appreciation of God that there can possibly be, that there's some sort of a form of this creative force of God, that's called the world of Atzilut. It's a dimension of God. Generally speaking, there's 4 dimensions of godliness. This is all below the level of Tohu. There's what's called Atzilut. Below that is Bria. Below that is Yetzirah. These are dimensions of reality. Each one is included in the dimension which is above it. Like, let's say something like the addition. Addition, right? 2 and 2 is 4. 2 and 2, right? 2 plus 2. I'm sorry. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. Right? 2 plus 1. That's addition. That's included in mathematics. Mathematics is like a bigger dimension, and addition is just within it. The same thing is the world of Atzilut. That's like the biggest type of reality, a spiritual reality. And inside of that, there's a lower dimension, which is called Bria. And inside of that, there's a lower dimension, which is called Yetzirah. And inside of that, there's a lower dimension, which is called Asiya, and that's me and you. The highest of these, the basic form of man, the first time God, so to speak, put himself into this form, made this form, that's called the man that Isaiah saw sitting on the throne, right? This is a reality, some sort of a high reality. I don't know what it means, but anyway, that's called the man. That's the form of man. That's what it means that we are made in the image of man. It's talking about that order of the 10 sefirot of God as they are in Atzilut. So God said, who is the one that made the man of Atzilut that's on the throne? This is the name man, which is Ma. This is a numerical value of God, God's name, Yud Hey Vav He. It's filled up with different letters, comes out to 45. 45 is the numerical value of man. Shu Klolos Atikun. This is the whole entire order of the worlds, which we call Tikkun. Atzilut, Bria, all this I explained to you. This is all below Tohu. Where do you think that Tikkun got limited? Who is doing this limitation? And that's the vessels of the mouth are an example that we're made in the image of God, means the image of God that's in Atzilut. That man that's in Atzilut, right? That's the source of your mouth. Who made it such a thing like that? Who made it also that your physical mouth in this world can draw down the essence of God when it's used properly? You use it for the Torah. For instance, by means of making a blessing on a commandment, you can draw down what's called the makif, a surrounding level. By actually the commandment itself, you can draw down an inner level of godliness. It's explained at the end of chapter 5 of the Tanya. Therefore, betfilin shel rosh, the head tefillin that we put on, nichlaku of Sfardim v'Ashkenazim, the Sephardic Jews and the Ashkenazic Jews, the Kabbalists, the big rabbis of the Sephardic Jews and the Ashkenazic Jews, they have an argument if you're supposed to make a blessing on the head tefillin or not. Are you supposed to say a blessing on it? What's this got to do with anything? It says because, according to all opinions, the head tefillin draws down this tremendously high level of godliness when you do it. A makif level of the head tefillin, it's too high. Therefore, the custom of the Sephardic Jews is not to make a blessing. Also, Chabad, we don't make a blessing on the head tefillin. They say that it's impossible to draw, unless you make an interruption. They say it's impossible to draw down godliness, so you can't make a blessing, it's too high. The Ashkenazic Jews, they say that you are able to make a blessing, and you do. I'll call upon him at least, Lamadnu should the kliya peh, that the vessel of the mouth, it draws down this surrounding level of godliness. So according to the Ashkenazic Jews, you can make a blessing. In other words, you can have an effect on the surrounding level of God, the level of Atzilut or whatever, and even higher by means of the mouth. Okay, so let's put this all in proper sort of perspective of what's going on over here. God is telling Moses, basically, I want to give the Torah to the Jews. That's the whole reason the Jews got out of Egypt, was to receive the Torah. God is saying, I want to give the Torah to the Jews, but I can't. The Jews are prisoners in Egypt. And I put them in Egypt in order to take them out. And then when they get out, they're going to do the Torah and the commandments. Moses says to God, God, the Torah, the commandments, when a Jew does it, it draws down from the essence of godliness. I haven't got any connection with that. I'm only a spiritual person. I can't deal with the essence of God by means of the commandments. That's something it's just out of my ability. I can't deal with it. Moses said, I'm the most spiritual person in the world. I come from a level of godliness, and you know it, God. I come from a level of godliness, which is the world of Tohu. That's above all of these orders and the man sitting on the throne and all this. That's like, so to speak, from the highest level of spirituality. And when the Jews get the Torah, they're going to draw down you, the source of all the spirit, the source of Tohu, even higher. I can't do that. I can't do that. That's what's called the surrounding light, or makif, a light of godliness which is above anything. I can't do it, said Moses. So God said to Moses, calm down. Calm down. The reason that you are so high is because I made you high. I made you high. Believe me, I'm higher. And I came down into the world of tikkun, into Atzilut. I limited myself. And I made what's called the man of Atzilut. This level of the essence, name of God, which is found in the world of Atzilut. Who did that? Said me. Me. That I made it possible for a man that he would have a mouth and be able to speak. Who made a mouth? In other words, me, Hietziel. Who is it that emanated the fact that there could be such a thing as a mouth, that he could speak, and even in this world could make a blessing and draw down a surrounding level of godliness? Who made it? Who made the man of Tikkun? I did. Anochi. I am the essence of God. Moses, you're looking at things from a human point of view, even a spiritual human point of view. Don't do it. That's not the Jewish people. The Jewish people are human beings like everybody else, but they must not look at the world from a human point of view. The Jews have to, that's the whole point of the Jews. They have to look at the world from my point of view, Anochi Hashem. And the essence of God is that he can do big miracles. And perhaps the greatest miracle of all is that a Jew, when he does a commandment, especially when he makes the blessing on the commandment, that it causes God in his essence to react. That's even bigger than splitting the sea or anything. The essence of God, Shor Shakav, the source of all spirituality, which is called the beam of light of God, of Or Ein Sof, that is the source of all of these levels or panimi and a makifim. It's the source of everything. When Jews do a commandment, is they'll be able to draw down this essence of godliness into the world. Something is biting you. Okay. If so, God is saying to Moses, if so, many from me, says God, from me, lo yivatzer, cannot be withhold mu'uma, anything. I can do anything. Moses, what are you trying to say? I created you, that your essence spiritual, you can't come down and connect yourself to the essence of God by means of the commandments, right? That's how I created you. You can change it. God says, no problem. It's the same thing as the beginning of the 10 Commandments is, I am God that took you out of Egypt. So I know we've talked about this before, but any normal person could say, one second, the message of Judaism is that God is creating everything all the time. So if he's creating everything all the time, so what's the big deal that he could take us out of Egypt? What's the big deal? He's creating Egypt. He could just stop creating it. So the answer is no, you don't understand. If God is creating something, it means that he wants it to be here. If he wants things to be here, then that's called nature. God wants there to be nature. He wants nature to give the appearance that it's the only reality, that there is no creator. And the example of that is Egypt. Not Egypt as it is today, the country, but Egypt as it was back then. Egypt was purely against God. There were sorcerers. They did everything they wanted to, whatever they wanted. They were enjoying themselves. It was a tremendously, but they hated God. They didn't want any, what he called it, limitations. They wanted to be the boss. That's Egypt. God doesn't exist. Boga niet. There's no such thing as God. That's Egypt. And God said, and I created them that way. I want that to be that way. Right? That's called reality. And I'm telling you that although I created it, and I created Egypt from my essence, because the world is created because that God wants it. But nevertheless, for the Jewish people, I changed it. I took you out of Egypt. And it was the reality of Egypt being created by God is so powerful. That reality is so powerful that God wants it, that it's an amazing miracle. That's called a miracle, that God could change nature, because nature has an infinite power of God in it that it should not change. And that's what Moses was saying to God. God, you created me. My nature is that I'm spiritual, super spiritual. I'm the more spiritual than anybody else in the world. How can I change it? God said, listen, calm down, Moses. I was the one who created this whole business, even though your source comes from Toe, and you haven't got the vessels. But Anochi, but I, says God, my essence, that's the Anochi that God revealed when he gave the Torah. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I created all the vessels of this world and the world of Tohu. I can change anything I want to. I can make Tohu into Tikkun together. I can even put them both together. Infinite and finite together. How could there be infinite and finite together? It makes no sense. Oh, now you're getting the point. It makes no sense. Don't use your mind. It says in the Holy Temple, when there was, in the first temple especially, that in the Holy of Holies was, let's say, 20 feet wide. And in the middle was the ark. And the ark was, let's say, 5 feet long. Let's say 5 feet long. And they would lower people from the top in order to clean the room. So you figure if the room is 20 feet wide and the ark is 5 feet wide, so it would take up some space. So if you measured from one side of the ark to the wall, there would be, let's say, the whole entire empty space should be 15 feet, right? 15 feet, but it wasn't that way. When they measured from one side of that ark to the wall, it was 10 feet. When they walked to the other side of the ark to the wall, was 10 feet. In other words, the whole room was 20 amas big. And when they put the ark there, and the ark took up 5 amas, and they measured it, the room was 20 amas big, exactly the same thing. How could it be? The ark had to have exact measurements. If it didn't, then it was disqualified. So it was there. They built it. It was there. How could it be there and not there at the same time? That's impossible. And what's the answer? You're right. It's impossible, but God did it. And that's the essence of what the Jews are. And that began with Moses. That happened when God put the Torah in the world. The tikkun, that's the big advantage of this world of tikkun. That there would be a lot of vessels, but there would also be the essence of God, this highest spiritual level of Tohu that Moses had. It would be put into a lot of vessels, and that's the Torah. That's what it means. That the beginning, the essence of God, was put specifically in the lowest things in the commandments. That's why we see a very amazing thing. Right, the Jewish people, everybody hates them from all the generations. What we're seeing now, it's not a new thing that the world all of a sudden hates us, and the universities, they hate us, and that everybody's hate us. The United Nations hates us, and they hate us, and the Jews hate themselves. They hate themselves. They want to do it, right? The Jews for Hamas, even in Israel, they got the whole government is basically for Hamas. And we gave them the whole Gaza. We gave them the whole thing, right? We're not for them. This has been going on since Abraham. It's been going on. I mean, Jews haven't been against themselves since. Well, actually, they have, right? Ishmael was the son of Abraham, so he was a Jew, I guess, basically. Esav and Yaakov. So Jews against Jews, and the world against Jews, and here we are, and all the people that were against us are gone, right? And we have this book called the Torah, tremendously complicated, and it just has remained unchanged, totally unchanged for 3,000 years since it's been given. That doesn't make any sense. That's an example of what we're talking about here. But the essence of God in physical things in the world. But that's what it means. That's what God said. I will be with your mouth, Moses. Your physical mouth that speaks. My essence, will be in your mouth. Shahagam, even though that your source comes from Tohu, and nevertheless, I will give you the proper vessels and the proper your mouth, the proper instrument, your mouth will work, and especially your mouth, that by means of that can be drawn down these surrounding lights that we say that when we make a blessing, we draw them surrounding lights. But yeah, if it was so, there will be you, Moses, you're gonna have two tremendously high qualities. Number one, from where you come, you're going to have tremendous lights of God, but they're going to be in the simplest people and the simplest actions that they do. Like it says, that the beginning is found in the end. the essence of God. What is he creating all these spiritual worlds for? For this physical world right now, just like the beginning, the essence of God is found in this world. Also, this physical world, the end, can affect the essence of God. Therefore, Yochaliot can be Nimsa Maila Tikun. Therefore, this physical, limited, orderly world has some sort of a big advantage on Tohu. In other words, the physical has a big advantage on the spiritual. And God says even more, therefore, I'm going to be able to unify them both together. And that's what God was saying to Moses. I'm going to make them both together with you, Moses. And through that, you're going to talk to Paro, and you're going to bring the Torah. And by means of this, the Torah, every single Jew is going to have the ability to personify and repeat this miracle. That the essence of God can be in the mouth of man when he makes a simple blessing, when he learns the Torah. And even in your arms, your legs, when you do a commandment. That's what began here. God said to Moses, you're spiritual. I'm going to put that spirituality, which is above any limitation, I'm going to put it into limits. I'm going to put it into tikkun, into the physical world. That marks the beginning of the giving of the Torah to the Jewish people, and through the Jewish people to the whole world. Okay, now let's do the Dvar Malchut. Here we go.